I don't care if he's dying, it's mine. It's all mine. The voice pierced the silence of the grand mansion like a gunshot. Nicholas Drake, frail and on his deathbed, barely heard the words as they echoed through the hallway. His eldest son, Lucas, stood at the doorway, fists clenched, glaring down at the family estate documents. "Lucas, enough!" his brother Ethan shouted. "It's still his decision to make." His decision. Lucas spat. "What decision? He's as good as gone. All that's left is the money, the company, everything we deserve." If you are enjoying this story so far, please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments what city you are watching from. Now back to the story. Nicholas's breath hitched as he strained to listen, the air thick with the tension that had consumed his family. His wife, Clara, stood by the window, silently watching, the faintest of smiles creeping onto her lips as she turned back to see him. "You should have seen it, Nicholas," she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "They're already planning the future without you." His heart sank. For years, he'd suspected that money was the only thing his family cared about. But now, hearing it so plainly, it twisted the knife deeper. Lucas, the son he'd always thought would take over the family legacy, was already planning how to strip it away. A cold, detached part of him had expected this moment. But nothing could have prepared him for the betrayal that laid bare before him. For so long, he'd given everything to his family. And now, in his weakest moment, all that mattered to them was what he could leave behind. The irony hit him hard. He had spent a lifetime building his empire, protecting them, and yet it wasn't enough. They would take everything, and leave him with nothing. But then there was Ava. Nicholas watched from his hospital bed at Mercy General as his family flooded into the private suite. The diagnosis, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, terminal, sat heavy in the air like smoke. How much time? His eldest son Marcus asked, eyes darting to the lawyer standing in the corner. Not "how are you feeling, Dad?" Not "we'll fight this together." Just, "how much time?" 2 months, the doctor said. Maybe less. Nicholas saw it then, the quick glance between Marcus and his sister Victoria. The barely concealed relief. The mental calculation of inheritance splitting 4 ways instead of fighting for scraps while he lived another decade. His wife Claire squeezed his hand, but her mind was already somewhere else. Probably the penthouse in Miami she'd been eyeing. Only Ava stood apart, arms crossed by the window, jaw tight. The maid who'd raised his children while their mother shopped on Fifth Avenue. The woman who'd wiped their tears and packed their lunches and asked about their days. She was crying. The rest were planning. The Marland mansion felt like a mausoleum those first weeks. Claire had flown to Paris, to clear her head, she said. Marcus and Victoria were suddenly too busy with urgent business to visit. Phone calls went unreturned. Text messages sat on read. But every morning at 6 a.m., Andrea arrived. She'd brew his coffee the way he liked it, 2 sugars, splash of cream. She'd sit with him on the east terrace overlooking the sprawling Oklahoma plains, not saying much, just being there as the sun came up. "You don't have to do this," Nicholas said one morning, his voice rougher than usual. "I know," Andrea replied simply. She read him the newspaper when his eyes got tired. Made him laugh with stories about her daughter Wendy's latest school antics. Forced him to eat when he claimed he wasn't hungry, because Mr. Marland, you need your strength. She never asked about the will. Never mentioned money. Never looked at him like he was a walking ATM with an expiration date. She just stayed. And for the first time in decades, Nicholas felt what it was like to be seen as a person, not a paycheck. The vultures didn't even wait for him to die. Nicholas sat in his study, supposedly too weak to attend meetings, while his hidden cameras captured everything. The boardroom at Marland Oil and Gas had become a battlefield. "Dad's clearly not competent anymore," Marcus announced, slamming his fist on the mahogany table. "We need to move assets into a trust, with me as executor." Victoria nodded eagerly. For his own protection, of course. Claire was already redecorating his office. New curtains. New furniture. Erasing him before he was even gone. His attorney called daily with the same message. "They're circling Nicholas. Your wife's lawyer filed paperwork to contest the prenup." Nicholas watched it all unfold on monitors in his private study. 52 years of building an empire, and they were tearing it apart like kids fighting over candy. Then Andrea knocked softly, carrying soup she'd made from scratch. "Chicken and dumplings," she said. "My grandmother's recipe." She sat with him while he ate, telling him about Wendy's soccer game, about the flowers blooming in the garden, about life beyond dollar signs and stock prices. She asked for nothing. She gave everything. Nicholas found Andrea in the garden at sunset, deadheading roses like she'd done every evening for 20 years. "Andrea," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something." She turned, concern flooding her face. "Mr. Marland, you shouldn't be out here without." "I'm not dying." The pruning shears fell from her hands. "The cancer," Nicholas continued, his voice steady. "It was fake. All of it. The diagnosis, the 2 months. I needed to know who really cared. Who loved Nicholas Marland the man, not Nicholas Marland the billionaire." Andrea's face went through a dozen emotions: shock, confusion, relief, then something that looked like hurt. You tested us?" "I tested everyone." He stepped closer. "My wife is in Paris spending my money. My son tried to have me declared incompetent. My daughter's already selling off company assets." His voice cracked. "But you stayed. Every single morning. You asked for nothing. You just loved you," Andrea finished softly. "Because that's what family does, Mr. Marland. Real family." Nicholas felt something break open in his chest. "I'm changing my will," he said. "Everything. All of it." Nicholas called the family meeting at Marland Mansion on a Tuesday morning. Claire arrived in her new Chanel suit. Marcus and Victoria wore matching expressions of poorly disguised impatience. They gathered in the library, probably expecting funeral arrangements. "I have an announcement," Nicholas said from behind his desk, standing healthy, very much alive. Claire's champagne flute slipped. "Nicholas?" "But the doctor said." "The doctor said what I paid him to say." Nicholas's voice was ice. "Stage 4 cancer. 2 months to live. All fake." Marcus shot to his feet. "What the hell?" "Sit down." The command in Nicholas's voice made his son freeze. "I wanted to see who you really were when the clock was ticking. Who stayed? Who cared?" Victoria's face went pale. "Dad, we were just trying to protect the business. You tried to have me declared incompetent." Nicholas slid documents across the desk. He looked at Claire, filed to break our prenup. "And you, Marcus, started selling company assets behind my back. We thought you were dying." Claire shrieked. "Exactly," Nicholas said quietly. "You thought I was dying, and you celebrated." Only Andrea stood silent by the window, tears streaming down her face. The room exploded. "You can't be serious." Marcus lunged forward. "She's a maid. She doesn't know anything about running a company." Nicholas smiled coldly. "Andrea has a master's degree in business from Oklahoma State. She's been managing household operations for a $50 million estate for 2 decades. She raised my children better than their own mother did." He paused. "And unlike you, she understands loyalty." "This is insane," Victoria hissed. "We'll contest it. We'll try." Nicholas pulled out another folder. "I have recordings of everything. Every scheming conversation. Every asset you tried to hide. Every lie." He looked at Claire. "Including your affair with my business partner." Claire's face went white. "Andrea Smith," Nicholas turned to her, his voice softening. "I'm naming you CEO of Marland Oil and Gas, effective immediately. The estate, the company shares, everything, it's yours. Not because you asked for it, but because you earned it by being the only person who saw me as human." Andrea's hands trembled. "Mr. Marland, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll teach them what real family means." 6 months later, Marland Oil and Gas was unrecognizable. Andrea didn't just run the company, she revolutionized it. Worker safety programs. Fair wages. Community investment in Ponca City that created jobs and rebuilt neighborhoods. The quarterly profits actually increased because employees who felt valued worked harder. "You're making us look soft," one board member complained. "No," Andrea corrected firmly. "I'm making us human." She hired a financial literacy program for low-income families, established scholarships for first-generation college students, turned the East Wing of Marland Mansion into a community center where Wendy and other kids could do homework after school. Nicholas watched from the terrace, coffee in hand, as Andrea addressed shareholders with the same confidence she'd once used to manage his household. "Profit without purpose is just greed," she told them. "My daughter will inherit a company that stands for something." Marcus and Victoria had been bought out, generous settlements with ironclad NDAs. Claire got her penthouse in Miami and nothing more. Nicholas didn't miss any of them. "You did good, Mr. Marland," Police Chief Sarah Davidson said during her visit, reviewing the estate's new youth mentorship program. "No," Nicholas smiled. "Andrea did good. I just finally got out of the way." Thanksgiving at Marland Mansion looked different now. No designer place settings or catered affairs. Just Andrea's homemade turkey, Wendy's lopsided pumpkin pie, and laughter echoing through rooms that had been silent for too long. "Mr. Marland, you're gonna burn the rolls," Wendy giggled, pulling the pan from the oven. "It's Nicholas," he corrected gently. "And I think they're supposed to be crispy." Andrea shook her head, smiling. "That's called burnt, boss." The word had become their inside joke. She ran a billion-dollar company, but still called him boss when he tried to help in the kitchen. Nicholas looked around the table, at Andrea reviewing quarterly reports between bites, at Wendy chattering about her soccer championship, at the framed photo Andrea had added to the mantel, the three of them at Wendy's school play. His legal family had abandoned him for money. His real family had stayed for love. "You know what's funny?" Nicholas said quietly. "I spent 50 years building an empire to leave behind a legacy. Turns out, the legacy was never the money." Andrea squeezed his hand. "No, it wasn't. It was this. This table. This love. This home." Finally, he was rich. The end.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please share your thoughts in the comment section and tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you'll know when we upload our next story.